For our next panel, we will shift the discussion from state to federal issues. Please welcome to the stage Congressman Sean Duffy. Newly elected Congressman Bryan Steil. And longtime friend, Congressman Glenn Grothman, and our moderator, Brian Schimming. How you doing? Good to see you. Brian?
Did Fitz leave his phone up here? Because we can start going through it if you guys want.
Yeah. Somebody's phone.
We'll just put it in our pocket. Hey, everybody, hold on. How's everybody doing? All right.
So let's all congratulate Sean Duffy, the new dad.
Hey.
Oh, thank you. We thought we were a little older for having a ninth child, but I guess not. So,
well, I was going to say the new dad again, but so that's close enough. First of all, I'll introduce this up very quickly. Glenn Grothman, they went after Glenn Grothman last time. They got what, the nephew, is it, Glenn, of one of the most famous political names in the state, who was a multimillionaire and had millions of dollars poured in against Glenn Grothman, and that guy is back what he's doing, and Glenn Grothman is here. Sean Duffy actually did us two favors by running, I always say. Number one, he scared Dave Obey out of Congress. And number two, he has done a great job in Congress, and as I've been saying in the Lincoln days, not only is he a great policy guy, not only is he a great spokesman, boy, do you know how to marry up. Bryan Steil's race, a focus of national Democrats, as I recall Bryan Steil, your opponent spent the most, or had the most put in support of him, the second most of any of the 435 congressional districts in America was spent against this guy, and here he is. Now, a quick one for all of you. You're new, freshman. Glenn, you're almost new. Current priorities in Washington for each one of you, and really, as a practical matter, how has Democrat control of the House, flip control, how is it affecting your priority?
Well, obviously it's a disappointment. I think the frustrating thing is, so you all understand, with the majority comes the ability to set the agenda. No bill comes to the floor or has a hearing without the approval of Nancy Pelosi or the Democratic committee chair. Okay, so really, all we can do is kind of play defense and explain to the public the horrible things that are coming out there. And that's the big effect. You could say on the good side, it shows what will happen if Donald Trump loses and the type of laws that will pass. We would not know that except for the fact they are in the majority, and again, they come forth with bills eradicating the Second Amendment, extremely pro-choice, pro-abortion bills. They came up with a crazy bill yesterday that was kind of like the transgender dream bill. And we can see what would happen to America if we lose a year from November.
Yes, so Brian and I have the great privilege of serving on financial services, where our chair is Maxine Waters. Yeah, Ms. Tlaib is with us on the committee. AOC is with us on the committee. So we have a lot of fun in Congress. And
define fun, Sean.
Right. and Brian has the distinct position in the committee in the lineup where he gets to go right before AOC or right after AOC. So he gets to kind of bookend her one way or the other and does a great job at that. But just to be honest about priorities and how you get things done, even when we had the House, the Senate, and the White House in the last Congress, we still needed to work with Democrats if we were going to get a bipartisan bill out of the House, and it had to be a bipartisan bill to get Democrats in the Senate to vote for it. And with the filibuster rule, you need Democrats to vote for bills. And I would just note that in our committee, there's been one time one Democrat has come to me in these 4.5 months and said, hey, I want your input on this bill. I want your support for this bill. Otherwise, Maxine is just driving partisan political bills that she can pass off the House floor, but they'll go nowhere in the Senate because they're just liberal Democrat bills. So it might be good for politics, but it's not good for policy. And so we're kind of blunting them there. I don't know if we're going to get to it later, but I've been working on the Reciprocal Trade Act, which if you guys are in Green Bay, the president loves. And just a quick note, if we go country by country, product by product, and allow our president to raise our tariffs to match the tariffs that are charged against U.S. companies or U.S. workers, right? And then I'm a free trader. I don't believe in tariffs. I don't want tariffs. So I think because we're the biggest market, once we do that, they'll actually lower their tariffs and we'll lower ours too and get us closer to free and fair trade and stop these countries from screwing our companies and our workers. Thank you.
The role of the minority is to become the majority. And so we got to stay focused, in particular, as we have this run up to 2020, to make sure that we can take back the House and take away the gavel from Nancy Pelosi. And to do that, we have to stand firm against some of this Democratic agenda, in particular stuff that you guys pointed out. But we also have to say what we're for. And we have to set forth that if given the authority back from the American people to take the gavel back into Republican hands with a Republican president, Republican Senate, and we need more senators. That's a whole other discussion. But then we need to put forth that agenda that if given this opportunity, we're going to tackle this $20 trillion debt, that we're going to continue to strengthen the United States military, that we're going to stand for life, that we're going to protect the Second Amendment. We got to lay out what we're for in this conversation so that as the minority, we can become the majority.
How many folks here from around Chippewa Valley? Let me hear from you. Chippewa Valley, you got folks here, you got over here. Over here. Eau Claire, you got people there. Green Bay, Fox Valley. All right. So the president just up there a couple of weeks ago, by the way, great job. The vice president also on Thursday in the Chippewa Valley area, great job there. What opportunities, let me put it that way, does a Trump administration present in your district or frankly for the whole state?
The president does an amazing job communicating and going right around the media and communicating directly to people. He does that better than anybody that we've ever seen. And maybe just to give you an example, and so I represent Southeast Wisconsin, given that honor, and just let's take Kenosha County. I see Kenosha in the back. Kenosha County in 2016 voted for President Trump. That was the first time Kenosha County voted for a Republican, not Ronald Reagan, 84 re-elect. Kenosha County voted for Mondale. It goes all the way back to 1972. And so the president has found a way to go around the media, talk directly to voters, explain the conservative message, and the results, I think, are really clear. And we're going to benefit from that ability to talk directly to people and go around the media in 2020.
So I agree with Bryan. And also, at the Green Bay rally, President Trump said they had 69,000 people sign up to go see him at a rally where they only held 13,000. That's remarkable, the excitement that he generates in communities, in addition to what Bryan said on the messaging. But also, if we look at data and being able to touch people in the lead up to an election and motivate them to go out and vote, Trump lets everybody sign up. Everybody gets a ticket to the rally. Now everybody can't get in. You got to, it's first come, first serve. But the list that he's building, and then also the message that he drives in a community, I think truly matter. And so as we start to work on our ground game, and I would argue that our state has the best party of any party, Democrat or Republican, in any state. This is just going to make us that much better with the data that we get from the Trump touches in Wisconsin.
Well, I think Donald Trump is doing a great job as president. obviously, everybody in this room has worked for different candidates, and Donald Trump provides some unique opportunities and some unique challenges. And I cannot remember in my lifetime a politician who inspires the base more. I mean, if anybody wasn't there in Green Bay a couple weeks ago, you really missed something. And I am told the people who did not get in the Resch Center, they felt they saw something tremendous just being on the outside of the Resch Center. You normally wouldn't see that. So, but I think more than other candidates, we are going to have to focus strongly on the issues so people understand the big difference in America that is going to be between having Donald Trump president in this country in 2021 and having Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or whoever being president. It's got to be, from our perspective, a very issue-oriented campaign.
Can I add to one thing that you guys said is the ability to talk directly to people. And what we've proven time and again in Wisconsin is you can't buy elections in Wisconsin. That was true with Brian Hagedorn. How good did it feel when you woke up or stayed up on Tuesday night when he won? That we have the ability to get the message out. In our race, we were outspent 4-1, 2-1 after all these super PACs. We pulled it across the line. Brian Hagedorn did it. The president did it originally. It shows that with the strong party, the strong Republican Party that we have in the state of Wisconsin, the ability to message directly to people, go around the mainstream media, that we can win even if we're outspent.
What do you hear when you go out? I mean, we're all so close to it. When you go to your district, what issues in general do people bring up to you? And it sounds too easy a question, but you all represent very different districts. Are there issues that dominate the discussion, maybe with us or in talk radio? Not that we're ever wrong, but that dominate the discussion that may not, just out in the counties, in the towns and the villages, that you're all great. I mean, I see you all over the place. You guys have really worked their districts. What are you hearing?
Well, I think right now the farm economy is in a difficult situation. First of all, people are in general happy. I will tell you, as long as I've been doing this, when I have office hours, I have never had so little criticism. So right now, people are wildly happy. But people, of course, bring up issues of concern. You have the border, 100,000 people coming across. And by the way, the people in Washington don't get that. They really don't. They don't get that that's the number one threat to our country. Obviously, health care. You know, you have people out there paying $15,000, $20,000 premiums a year in their late 50s or early 60s. And of course, I have a lot of dairy in my state, and the farm economy has never been worse. And we passed an agriculture bill. They'll be helpful in that regard, but there's no question it's very difficult out there right now for the farmers.
So, maybe at risk of offending a lot of you here, but pleasing others, you guys know that the 7th Congressional District, which is about a third of the state in landmass, but in people not so much, we were always the ugly stepchildren of this event because we got the lowest vote totals compared to the rest of you. Donald Trump got a higher vote total in the 7th district than any other district in the state. I can see where the 7th district is, right? And we should all applaud that, because if we're going to win Wisconsin, you needed us to change in the rural parts, and you're seeing that in the 8th as well in Green Bay, which usually would perform better than us. But we need, I mean, the 5th district. I mean, you look at the suburbs of Milwaukee and the rest of the state. And the energy that Madison now has, those liberals, it is a full-throated effort by all of us to actually turn out and win together. And I bring it up because I'm proud of what we've done and how well the president did. But it's part of this whole team that we have in the state, that every vote counts in the state, not just every district. But we're pulling our weight up there. But I'm hearing the same thing that Glenn is hearing. I mean, healthcare is a big issue. We got to deal with healthcare. And by the way, I think that instead of socializing medicine, having a single-payer Medicare for all, what I would love to do is say, hey, let's let Wisconsin develop a program that works for Wisconsin. But if you want to have a single-payer Medicare for all system in California or New York or Vermont, have at it. If you guys want to tax your citizens to death, go ahead. But let us have a system that works for us. I think that's probably what I think is the right answer there. And just, you guys might have heard that we're working on a deal with steel and aluminum with Canada and Mexico right now. If we get that done, that's going to help dairy. We sell a lot of milk into Mexico, and we've been held up because of steel and aluminum. We cut that. That's going to help our dairy farmers out. And then just one last thing. All of us, we're not subsidy people. We're not big government people. We're not redistributors. But whenever you get engaged in a fight like we have now on unfair trade, our trading partners always go after our agriculture. They always go after ag. And it's a big part of our economy, and it's a big part of the Midwest. And when they go after it, that's how they get us to fold. We always call uncle because they go after our agriculture. And that's what China's doing right now. They're going after all of our products, whether it's corn, soybeans. They're even going after ginseng and cranberries because they want to play hard in Wisconsin where Donald Trump is strong. They're smart. And so I would just say that the money that the president gets from tariffs, if we're going to win this fight for our future, I think he has to drive that money back in and help our farmers out survive this fight so we can win it and have freer and fair trade.
You guys highlighted the things everybody's talking about. I mean, I go and do town halls like you guys do, and you open the door, and people that come up and ask questions, we just open it up, and it's questions that you won't be shocked. It's not questions that you guys would ask. It's people on the far left. But I think the one thing that you see time and again is I think people really struggle understanding how far left the Democratic Party has gone. And so I'll get questions. We talked about the core conservative message that we need to continue to deliver. But we also need to highlight how far left the Democratic Party has gone. The Green New Deal. I mean, you get into driving up the cost of energy, the ability to heat your home in the state of Wisconsin. You talk about how they're opposed to life. You talk about how they want to come after the Second Amendment. I mean, time and again, the Democratic Party has gone so far to the left that I'm in rooms with people that even people that have been historical Democrats shake their head, and they're now ready to hear the conservative argument about how we're going to grow the economy and protect our liberties.
Can I ask a quick question to you? I know, so Bryan was just elected. It was a great victory. But my question to the convention is, why does Bryan only get a small sign on the wall? Does he have to win re-election before he gets actually a big one, or?
You got to be at least a sophomore to see that.
That's a freshman sign.
That's a freshman sign.
That's good.
Let's hear it for Bryan Steil's sign, everybody.
Speak softly, carry a big stick, bring a small sign.
Someday. So, perfect lead in to my next question. So I was sitting in for Mark Belling the day that it was announced that the Democratic National Convention is coming to Milwaukee next year. Now, you talk about not having to do a bit of work to get the show ready. That was the day. That was the day. And I was kind of saying to folks on the air, look, because folks are like, there's 50, 100,000 people coming in, and we're all, all this activity and great, all that kind of stuff. And I was kind of saying to folks, look, this is an opportunity to contrast ourselves against the craziness that you just talked about. I will pay for AOC's ticket to get here. I want her to come here. Talk about the opportunity in front of us.
Right. There are people, of course, the Democrats put the convention in Milwaukee because we are one of the most important states in the country, and they felt it would help them. I think there are two things we have to do to win this election. One of them is to point out, like Bryan said, how crazy the Democrats are, okay? And we should be out there all the time. When Beto O'Rourke shows up, we should talk about how he doesn't not only not want to build a wall, he wants to tear down the wall that exists between Juarez and El Paso, okay? When Congressman Swindell shows up, we ought to talk about how the Democrats want to take away all the guns, okay? When if you look every day, one of their 23 candidates is sounding something crazy, and never, ever, ever do the other, or almost never, do the other 22 candidates say, hey, wait a minute, that's too far. They just dive off the stage with the other people, right? So it gives us a perfect example to show how crazy they are and how everybody has to be out there. And now I feel bad about this, Bryan. I am the commencement speaker at Lakeshore Technical College in Cleveland, Wisconsin. And I apologize, that we thought we'd wrap up a while ago, but I'm not going to be late as the commencement speaker.
And you shouldn't be. So let's hear it for Glenn Grothman, everybody.
Thank you, Glenn.
Now we can talk about him.
Right. So, listen, I agree with Glenn. I mean, they're going to bring their crazy to the doorstep of Wisconsin, and we all get to see how nuts they are, which is going to be great. You could also have a 68 where in Chicago? I mean, I don't think Bernie Sanders supporters are going down with a Joe Biden if Joe Biden's the nominee. You could see Milwaukee kind of blow up politically if they have a brokered convention. And so, and by the way, we're nice in Wisconsin. We don't like that kind of behavior, and I think that's why I think Democrats saw that during the Act 10 riots at the Capitol. That doesn't play well for our people, and we'll see that in our own state and not like it. But one of the great, has anyone here ever been to a national convention ever in your life? Raise your hand if you've ever been to a national convention.
A Republican one, hopefully.
Or even, yeah, right. So what you'll find is when you try to walk up to the convention, and this is going to happen in Milwaukee too, you start walking up and you want to go into the convention hall, something will actually stop you. Anybody know what stops you before you get to the convention hall? A wall, right. They're going to build walls around the convention hall. And then they're going to have points of entry. And the only way you get through the point of entry is if you have a ticket. And so I think it's going to be great to talk about walls not working, but Democrats building walls at their convention and only letting people in if you have a ticket. What a great way we should use these policies on our southern border, huh? And I'm gonna bring, Bryan's gonna try to climb over the fence, and I'm gonna film him live on Facebook and see what happens when he does it.
You just signed me up for that. Thanks, Sean.
Bryan gone wild. We're looking forward to that.
I think what it really says is the Democrats know that Wisconsin's the tip of the spear. They know that they need to win the state of Wisconsin to put in place a Democrat president. And you think about it, I guess by default it means the Democratic nominee will have to visit the state of Wisconsin. But they didn't put it in Milwaukee because Bill Clinton wanted to bar hop downtown Milwaukee instead of Miami Beach. They did it because they know their path to be successful, to elect a Democrat, is to win the state of Wisconsin. And that's why they're coming. I had the opportunity 2 weekends ago, and I was with the administration. I was out at Camp David, and I left early because I was going back to the Kenosha. I was with you at the Kenosha Lincoln Day dinner, and then went up and did the Racine Lincoln Day dinner. And I left early, and they said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I'm going back. I'm doing the Lincoln Day dinner in Racine and Kenosha." And they were giving me grief. And I said, "Well, as you know, the counties that we need to win in the state of Wisconsin, we have the WOW counties, but then we have 72 counties. In every single county, we need to deliver Republican votes to protect this president." And so to me, we need a 72 county operation to be successful.
Right. Absolutely.
They're bringing this to Wisconsin. They're going to train volunteers. They're going to try to come out into all of our communities and try to deliver this far left agenda. And we need the ability to push back against that, deliver our agenda, explain why conservative ideas work, and that's going to be our challenge. But they're coming to Wisconsin because we are the tip of the spear for the presidential election in 2020.
Can I tell you the real reason why they're coming, though? They knew that if they bring the Democrat National Convention to Milwaukee, which is in Wisconsin, they knew that was the one state they could come to where Hillary Clinton wouldn't show up, so she wouldn't be at their convention, and they might have a shot at winning.
And let me remind everyone in here, as I've done at some Lincoln Days and on the air, so the strategy is to go to a state that they need to win, right? 4 years ago, they had their convention, their 2016 convention in Philly. They bring 50 to 100,000 people to Philly and to Pennsylvania and spend all, hundreds of millions of dollars and all the media attention and all the publicity. 4 months later, Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton in Pennsylvania. So,
And that's what we're going to do in Wisconsin in 2020.
right? We're going to do it here in Wisconsin. One last thing, and it kind of dovetails a little bit off of what you were just saying. And to folks, we've done a review of the party and important things. And you all have been out around the state. And kind of the final minute for both of you, what do we need to do together? What is it that we all need to do together?
Listen, do you want to go?
Either way.
All right, Brian, go ahead.
Freshman taking seniority. Be ready here.
Rock, paper, scissors.
No, the answer to me for that is we need to take our conservative message to places that aren't always hearing it. And that's incumbent upon all of us, people that are in elected office and everybody that's in this room. So maybe give you an example of what I mean by that. So during the campaign, I went to Republican Party rallies. Absolutely, we need to get our people out to vote. We need to have conventions. We need to be talking about it here. But then when we walk out of this convention, when we walk out of the Lincoln Day dinner, when we walk out of our summer Republican picnics, we need to go to places that maybe aren't hearing the message every day. And so what I did during my campaign, I went to a large number of African-American churches in the city of Racine. And they give you, it's an incredibly welcoming group. They give you the opportunity to go up and speak. And for me, that's the opportunity to go up and talk about why conservative ideas help all of us, about the economic growth that we're seeing in our state, delivered by policies put in place by the Republican Senate, Republican Assembly, Governor Walker, put in place by Republicans in the Senate, Republican President, Republicans in the House of Representatives, ultimately lead to economic growth and opportunity. That we're fighting for people to live out a life with the American dream. And to go and to have this conversation where maybe people aren't going every day, and then to show back up. And so I actually went back at the end of a day on Martin Luther King Day. I did a number of events, and then I had the opportunity at the end of the night. I usually leave one event where it's optional. If I'm ahead of schedule, I'll try to run to it. And I went back to this same African-American church I had spoken at before and arrived just before the start at 8 o'clock and sat in the back. And the pastor kind of locked eyes with me and saw me in the back and walked over to the pulpit and said, usually we see politicians who come here and ask for people's vote just before the election. Said, it's not that common that somebody comes back after the election to join us again. And he's pointing me out and said, I see Bryan Steil, why don't you come up here and say a few words? I was completely unprepared to speak, but I leapt at the opportunity. And I went back up and talked about the same things, that I'm working to make sure everyone has the opportunity to live out the American dream. When you put in place conservative ideas, you put in place conservative economic goals, we get the economy going. We're starting to see wages rise higher. That helps everybody, and we need to be able to take our message not only to places that hear it a lot, but we also need to take our message to places that maybe don't hear it quite as often. And to me, that's incumbent upon all of us, everyone in this room, elected, unelected, everybody here. And that's how we're going to deliver this state in 2020.
Brian is spot on, but also if you look at, we're the heart and soul of the party, right? We're the activists. We're the ones that live and breathe, politics in our counties and our districts. But Pat Teston's here. Ask Pat Teston or any other politician who serves in government. Once you implement programs or giveaways or handouts, how hard is it to take the handout away? It's almost impossible. And that we're actually having a debate right now in American politics about American-style free enterprise system, which all of us fight for in every election. But you saw the results of our style of policies with Republican Senate, House, and a Republican president. As Brian mentioned, wages are rising for everybody. And because of our tax reform, they get to keep more of their money. And you compare that against this threat of socialism that's coming from the left. If they win and they're able to implement socialism, I don't know how you extract socialism from a society until you get to a Venezuela, till it's absolutely destroyed, and then it has to be rebuilt. The benefit that Venezuela has is that they have an America to maybe step in and save them. If we go by the way of Venezuela, there is no America to save us. And so the only way we save America is by all of us going out and doing what Brian said, is going to talking to people that maybe we don't normally speak with, and also finding Trump supporters that might not come in and make phone calls. They might not want to knock doors, but they might go to different places, whether it's their union or their church, and they might actually do work in spaces that they feel comfortable working for the president to make sure we get out the vote. And it's finding the unique social structures that they have and how we can use that structure to reach more people and rebuff the lie that the liberal media is pushing, that this economy isn't working, that people's lives aren't better, that the lowest skilled labor is making the greatest leaps in income in this economy, that it's not a social program, it's a competitive economy where we're competing for labor that's driving up our wages for our people. We got to push back on the liberal narrative and remind people that this has been great for you. This has been the greatest economy of our lifetime. And again, it's thinking outside the box of who our allies are that come into our offices and how we can use them, again, not just to make our phone calls, not just to knock doors, but to figure out how they can infiltrate their community or their family or their kids to help get our message out. And by the way, one last thing, I'm going to shut up. I think we Dane County, where's Dane County? I give them crap all the time. Hi, you guys. We can't leave anybody on the roadside. There is a lot of Republican votes in Dane County. We have to go energize and activate those votes, make sure we're turning out 30% of the vote in Dane County, which in any other county might go, that's a horrible loss. 30% in Dane County is a win. Yep. We can't get 24% in Dane County, so we got to work to turn out every vote in every county, and I think then, Bryan, we're going to win.
So Glenn had to leave early, and Congressman Gallagher wasn't able to be here today, and Congressman Sensenbrenner, who is just a force of nature. Jim Sensenbrenner is the deal, isn't he?
He's the Godfather.
He really is, and we send a great delegation to Washington. And I know he's not here right at this minute, but how about that Ron Johnson guy? We are very fortunate to send folks as forward-looking as this and people who clearly get it and realize that we have to talk to everybody all across the state, not in just certain areas but everyone all across the state. That is the way to win. Let's hear it for these guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Senator Bryan Steil.